Hello there, I'm Flitworth, and welcome to another Creature Creator, the show where I help you create monsters and encounters inspired by your favorite characters. This week we're celebrating both Mother's Day and Friday the 13th by creating encounters worthy of the original Crystal Lake slasher herself, Miss Pamela Voorhees.
0933, 632.
Make mommy proud, Jason.
Be my victim. Stop right there and surrender.
First portrayed by Betsy Palmer back in the original Friday the 13th in 1980, Pamela has often been upstaged by her more notorious son, Jason Voorhees, who, yes, may be deserving of the attention thanks to his iconic hockey mask and appearance as the main killer for the majority of the Friday sequels. But, as many fans would attest, the franchise wouldn't be the same without Mrs. Voorhees. This isn't simply because Pamela was the original killer. Oh, no. Pamela made her mark in the Slasher Hall of Fame by being the most badass mother bear in the woods. For those who aren't aware, Mrs. Voorhees was actually the former cook to Camp Crystal Lake. Unfortunately, after the untimely death of Jason, who drowned in the lake due to the negligence of the camp counselors being too busy boozing and screwing, Mrs. Voorhees responded in a calm, collected manner and killed the counselors to ensure the campground closed down to prevent any future deaths of poor innocent children. Like you do. Over the course of one day alone, she manages to stalk and kill 8 people, hide their corpses in increasingly elaborate ways across the camp, all without the use of any powers or abilities. It goes without saying that Pamela's lust for vengeance is a terrifying sight to behold, and I frankly would pity anyone who would get caught in her crosshairs. Unless you happen to be my players. Because, let's be honest here, getting the chance to recreate her own take on Pamela is too entertaining of a challenge to pass up. Now, I'd recommend doing this in one of 2 ways. The first would actually be to pick up a game called Don't Look Back by Black Site Studios, the same company behind all the miniatures and models you see in my videos, including this one based on Pamela right here. Look at that! The game itself is a miniature tabletop game designed to let gamers play out their own horror stories in under an hour. But what you'll really love is how the adaptable rules allow for a lot of variety in your games, making it really easy for you to set up your dream Friday the 13th scenario in practically seconds. Even better, there's supplemental material to allow you to string together a long narrative through over the course of a few games, plus the killer is played with an AI deck, which means you forever DMs actually might get a chance to play. The bad news is, presently you can only really play with predetermined survivors, which may be a turnoff for those looking to play as their own original characters. However, the good news is that at the time of this recording, there are plans to release an expansion that allows you to create your own survivors. So, this won't be an issue for long. Now, if you'd rather recreate Mama Voorhees' rampage in a tabletop setting, this can be easily done with either Kids on Bikes or Dungeons & Dragons, because no matter which of the systems you choose, Mrs. Voorhees' stats doesn't really matter, because your players will never catch her in the act. Pamela is supposed to be a surprise, a stranger in a mask. She's not just a twist villain, she is the twist. A walking spoiler that if revealed too soon, your entire story will be exposed. Which presents us the fun challenge of building up to that climax by setting up a series of unsettling scenes to really get to our players. And I'm not just talking about putting together a bunch of murder scenes, because that would get too old at your tables. I'm talking about building up feelings of unease and dread to really get your players' paranoia going. We want them to have the hair on the back of their necks standing on end. We want them to feel goosebumps at every crick or crack in the woods. We really need to go and mess with your players. Fortunately, a good way to start this is to simply have your players roll for perception once in a while. It doesn't matter if there's anything really to perceive or if they roll high. What does matter is for you to respond with things like, oh, good to know. Or, you don't sense anything amiss. For now. Is this a little on the nose? Well, yeah, but so was our source material with its plot and characters. Speaking of which, Your most useful asset in this scenario are going to be your side characters. And I'm not just talking about your victims you'll be leaving in itty bitty bits. I'm referring to your random bystanders, your concerned citizens, and of course, your harbingers of doom! All three will be necessary to properly build up your story with random rumors, local history, and of course, your promises of doom! Which you also tie into your vector hooks and lead-ins. Make sure to keep the details vague or ominous. The aim here is to add more atmosphere and not drop too many hints. We want our players to be kept in the dark for the majority of the story until everything comes to light in the third act. To give you an example of how all these elements would play together, in my own games, I would start off by giving my players an adventure hook for a run-of-the-mill quest, like clearing out the vermin in the cellar or fixing up a building outside of town. The more mundane the task, the better. On their way to the gig, my players would bump into all kinds of folk who'd be more than happy to share all of their eerie and baseless rumors about the job, which I would reinforce by letting my players see how normal and nice the task ends up being. That is until people start disappearing. I would keep it gradual at first, a brief break here, a short trip into town there. By the end of the night though, only my survivors would be left. And that's when I would start to let things unravel. As the bodies of missing people begin popping up left and right, do whatever it takes to get your survivors desperate to seek help. Even if that means making sure for them to find that all the means of escapes have either been tampered with or straight up stolen. That is when we will describe out in the distance a random traveler headed their way in a vehicle that they all could escape in, who, if we played our cards right, your players will flag down. Which is when, at long last, you will drop in your Pamela, who, with their cuddly sweater and cheerful spirit, is more than happy to lend a helping hand. Don't let the build up to this moment go to waste after you finally have reached it. Have fun with your killer. Let them express genuine sadness for their victims, or give them a chance to try to calm down your players. This is not to say you should play dumb, because your players will suspect something is up. I mean, how can they not after the night they just went through? Which is why we'll want to play to those suspicions. With every passing word from your lips, your players should feel your character's intense rage, their lust for vengeance, to fully grasp the obsession that has taken over your killer's unhinged mind. For a little bit of extra flair, try to work in whatever caused the death of your killer's child to be something that your players often do, especially if it's an inside joke. You know, to give your Pamela a little extra push to go after your survivors. How your survivors resolve this encounter rests entirely in their hands. If you can, I personally would recommend playing out a cat and mouse chase scene like in the original Friday the 13th, for a nice change in pace from your usual combat encounter. And if your players truly want to throw down with your raging mama bears, you should go with a stat block like the one in the monster manual for berserkers, or even with the one I quickly created for this video down in the description. But even then, I would still highly recommend you play out the scene with a series of ability checks. All the better to really emphasize how each of your players' actions are down to the wire as they race to be the ones to deliver the killing blow. I hope you all truly enjoy this scenario from start to finish, because I can speak from experience that when I ran it for my own table, it not only left a lasting impression on my players, but also on my gaming world as a whole, for it opened the door for me to work in my own take on Pamela's son. And I will tell you, there is nothing more fun than having your own personal undead mama's boy to terrify your players whenever they least suspect it. Hey guys, thank you for watching. I hope you had fun today, hope you learned a few things, and if you got something out of this, please let me know. Or if you have any suggestions or advice, please speak up as well. I would love to have my own toolbox grow with your advice. In the meantime, if you haven't already, consider subscribing. And if you don't, that's okay too. I love you anyway. You're all beautiful. Take care.